What would happen if the door you have been afraid to open your entire life was never actually locked? What if the silence you interpreted as abandonment was never silence at all, but patience? Most people move through life carrying invisible wounds nobody else can see. They laugh in conversations while secretly feeling empty inside. They smile in photographs while fighting silent battles in their minds. They continue living, working, surviving, and pretending everything is fine, even though a part of them feels tired almost every single day. Over time, disappointment changes people. Rejection changes people. Betrayal changes people. Eventually, the heart begins to close itself little by little, not because it wants isolation, but because it becomes afraid of pain. A person who once trusted easily becomes cautious. A person who once loved openly becomes guarded. A person who once prayed confidently begins to wonder whether anyone is truly listening anymore. And perhaps the saddest part is that many people eventually become so familiar with emotional exhaustion that they stop expecting peace altogether. They simply learn how to survive their sadness quietly. But deep inside every human being there remains a hidden longing. A longing to be understood completely without needing to explain every scar. A longing to feel safe enough to stop pretending. A longing to finally rest emotionally after carrying so much for so long. People spend years trying to fill that emptiness with distractions, relationships, achievements, attention, money, entertainment, or temporary pleasure. Yet nothing fully satisfies the deeper hunger inside the soul. Because the soul was never created to survive only on temporary things. There is a deeper need inside every person, whether they admit it or not. The need to feel seen. The need to feel loved without conditions. The need to know that even after all their mistakes and failures, they are not forgotten. Many people secretly believe they are too damaged for God to still want them. They think they must fix themselves completely before approaching Him. They believe they need perfect faith, perfect habits, perfect discipline, or perfect words before heaven will open toward them. But that idea has wounded countless hearts. Because the truth is that God has never waited for perfection before offering love. Human beings demand perfection from each other constantly. Society teaches people that their value depends on performance. If you succeed, you matter. If you fail, you become invisible. If you are useful, people stay. If you struggle too much, many quietly disappear. That is why so many people are exhausted emotionally. They spend their lives trying to prove they deserve acceptance. But divine love does not operate like human approval. God does not stand outside your life waiting to criticize every flaw before entering. He already sees every broken part of you and still chooses to remain near. He sees the anxiety nobody knows about. He sees the nights you cried silently. He sees the disappointments you never fully recovered from. He sees the prayers you stopped praying because you were tired of feeling unheard. He sees the fear hidden behind your confidence. He sees the loneliness behind your independence. And somehow none of it scares Him away. There are people listening to these words right now who have become emotionally numb from life. People who once had hope, but slowly lost it through years of disappointment. Some trusted the wrong people and paid for it deeply. Some gave their heart to someone who walked away without caring about the damage left behind. Some spent years trying to make everyone else happy while neglecting themselves completely. Some grew up in homes where love felt conditional, unpredictable, or absent. Some learned early in life that opening their heart often led to pain. So they built walls. Quiet walls. Invisible walls. Walls even their closest friends cannot fully see. And eventually those same walls built for protection begin turning into prisons. The human heart was never designed to live disconnected from love for too long. That is why people can achieve success, money, attention, and external accomplishments yet still feel empty inside. Because external success cannot heal internal loneliness. A soul starving for peace cannot be fed only with distraction. And this is where many people misunderstand God completely. They imagine Him as distant, angry, disappointed, or impossible to reach. They imagine a divine presence constantly measuring their failures. But what if God has never been standing at the door of your life with condemnation? What if He has been standing there with patience this entire time? There is something deeply moving about realizing that God knocks gently instead of forcing His way into your life. He respects your freedom enough to wait. Even after years of distance. Even after doubt. Even after anger. Even after silence. Human beings often give up on each other quickly, but divine patience continues longer than most people can imagine. And perhaps what hurts many people most is not their pain itself, but the belief that they must carry it alone. There are moments in life when a person becomes so emotionally exhausted they no longer know how to pray sincerely. The words stop coming. The energy disappears. Even hope begins feeling heavy. Yet sometimes the most honest prayer is not a long speech. Sometimes it is simply, "I'm tired." Sometimes it is silence mixed with tears. Sometimes it is one final whisper asking for help before giving up completely. And strangely enough, those small, honest moments often become the beginning of real healing. Because God has never required polished performances to come near him. Religion often taught people to hide their weakness, but real healing begins when weakness is finally brought into the light honestly. Many people think faith means never doubting, never struggling, and never falling apart emotionally. But throughout history, some of the people closest to God experienced fear, grief, exhaustion, confusion, and deep emotional pain. The difference was not that they never struggled. The difference was that they kept turning back toward him even in their weakness. Life changes people slowly. Pain especially changes people slowly. A betrayal can alter the way someone trusts forever. A heartbreak can make someone emotionally unavailable for years. A season of failure can destroy confidence quietly from the inside. And disappointment repeated enough times can make a person stop believing beautiful things are still possible for them. That is why healing rarely happens overnight. A guarded heart does not suddenly feel safe again in one moment. Trust returns slowly. Peace returns slowly. Hope returns slowly. But little by little, the soul begins softening again when it realizes it is finally safe enough to stop pretending. One of the greatest lies people believe is that they are forgotten. Forgotten by others. Forgotten by life. Forgotten by God. But love that is eternal does not disappear because someone became lost for a while. Even in your darkest season, heaven did not stop watching over you. Even when you stopped praying consistently. Even when you doubted everything. Even when you felt spiritually numb. God remained near in ways you may not have recognized at the time. Sometimes his presence appears quietly. In the unexpected peace that arrives during chaos. In the strength you somehow found after believing you could not continue. In the person who appeared in your life exactly when you needed encouragement. In the moment a sentence reached your heart at precisely the right time. In the strange feeling that perhaps your story is not over yet. Those moments are not always accidents. The soul notices things the mind often tries to dismiss. There is also something important people eventually learn through suffering. Pain has a way of exposing what truly matters. It strips away illusions. It reveals which relationships are real. It reveals what kind of foundation your life was truly built upon. Sometimes losing what you depended on becomes the very thing that finally leads you toward what you actually needed all along. And maybe right now you are standing emotionally at a doorway inside yourself. One part of you wants to remain guarded because it feels safer there. Another part of you is exhausted from carrying everything alone. Another part of you still secretly hopes peace is possible. If that is where you are, understand this clearly. You do not need to have everything figured out before taking one step toward healing. You do not need perfect faith before opening your heart again. You do not need to become flawless before accepting love. The door was never waiting for perfection. It was waiting for willingness. A small yes is enough. A quiet prayer is enough. An honest moment is enough. God has always been far more interested in your sincerity than your performance. He does not expect you to arrive without scars. He simply asks you not to hide them from him anymore. And perhaps the most beautiful truth of all is this. Even after everything life has done to you, even after every disappointment, every heartbreak, every mistake, every season of doubt, and every moment you felt completely alone, the invitation to begin again still remains open.